Hey guys, I'm Catherine, and today I'm going to be showing you how to get started making iOS applications. And so if you've ever wanted to make an app, put it on the App Store, this is the video you should be watching. And so the first thing you got to do is you have to download the software that lets you make applications. And so like Photoshop helps you edit photos, this is kind of what this program called Xcode does for writing code. It allows you to make the code and then you can ship it off, build it, let it do its thing. And so to do this, how do we get the software? Well, first we have to go to the App Store. And so like everything in Apple, you have to download it as an app. And so if we go to Spotlight here and search App Store, hit enter, it'll load up. And we'll be in the App Store here in just a second. There we go. And in the search bar up here in the right corner, we are going to do Xcode because that's the name of the software, searching for it. And it'll be right over here. Mine says open because I've already downloaded it. I have the latest version, but you probably don't have that, so it'll say get. You can click on this little icon here. You can open it or get it, so install it. Once you have it, you'll be good to go. If you do not have a Mac, then you do not have the App Store. So you're like, how do I download this? Well, you could run like a virtual machine on your computer, so you can have like a Mac operating system on your computer, but that's kind of advanced. So if you want to do iOS applications, I will say get a Mac Mini, get something you can program on that's a Mac. Yeah, that's my advice. Or find a computer you can borrow that you can make these apps on. And so once you open it, download it, you're good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and click open since I have it, and there it is. And so this will be the welcome screen that you get when you first, download Xcode and open it for the first time. And so this little pane will be empty because you haven't created any projects. These are projects I've created, worked in, and so they're like my recent projects. And then we have some tabs down here. And so I'm gonna do get started with the playground first. And a playground is basically a place where you can mess around with code without putting it directly into an application. So if you want to say like, oh, what does this for loop do when I run it? Then you could put it in a playground and not have to create like a whole class, a whole data structure, a whole object for it like you would in something like Java. And so I'm going to call this Hello World. And that'll be the playground. Our platform, if we want mobile devices, it's going to be iOS. If we want to make apps for, our Mac, our laptop, then we're going to do this option here. But we want to do mobile applications. I mean, everyone wants an app on their phone. So we're going to do that. And we're going to go next. And we got to save it somewhere. So I'm just putting it in my desktop. You can navigate to where you want to put it. And here we are. We are in the playground. And the given code is a little string here. We can just create another string and not have to put it in an entity in an app. So I could say string hello world, and we'll say equals hello world. There we go. And we save, and it should pop up right over here. So this is kind of like a simultaneous runtime down here. This will show you like the value of your variables, or if you do other things, there it is. Stuff like that, and it'll give you like a constant runtime of like what it actually will look like when it runs. And so that's really nice to be able to just write code and not have to build it or run it. It just does it like automatically over here so you can see what's going on. So that's really awesome. Okay, so that is a playground, just a place to mess around with code without putting it in an actual program. You can just test stuff out here. So we are going to close this and open Xcode again so we can get this window back up. And notice it's a recent thing, and it probably is a recent thing for you too because you just made it. It has to do with Xcode, so it goes in this pane over here. So how do we make apps? Well, we create a new project. And so if we go to the second tab here, it'll be create a new Xcode project. We will click that in a second. Check out an existing project is something for later. You don't need to worry about it. But so we're going to do create a new project. And so you get this little window. Basically, there are a bunch of different templates that you can start with. And so master detail is like a table. So you'd have like a table, maybe it is a list of like all the general services a place provides, or the stuff that a store has. So say you go to Target, and Target has so many things. Target has cereal, it has food, but it also has like school supplies and clothes. Like you may have like a little tab for each of those in a table. And then when you click, say, food, it could open up and have even more stuff. That's the type of thing for a master detail. So you'd have like clothing, and then you can go to shoes, and then you could go to a specific type of shoe, and then you could go to like a specific product. And then once you get to that product, it would open like a special view where you could see like, oh, these sizes are available, this is the description of the product, and it would be a different view from the original like table that you had originally. And by table, I mean like a list of values, kind of like it's showing here. Page-based is pretty obvious, you know, you flip through the pages, kind of like Snapchat. Single view application, you know, you just have one view, obvious. Tabbed, again, very obvious. Game is like if you want to create Angry Birds or something, you would choose game. Okay, so what are we going to do? We are going to do a single view application, and you might be wondering, what is all of this over here? I don't know what this is. Well, don't worry about it. It basically has to deal with other stuff that you might want to work in later, but not for now. Notice if I wanted to create a Mac application, I could go here, and it would tell me what exactly to do, give me different templates, etc. But if you're not seeing this like thing, if you're not seeing this little window, it might be because you're on a different little tab here. And those can be explored later. So we have this single view application. We'll click next. We always have to create a product. This is so annoying. Why can't you just let us code? Well, nah, Apple doesn't do that. Okay, so we're going to call this Hello World because we're saying hello to the new world of Swift. And before we continue, you can put whatever you want here. It doesn't really matter. It's just like, this is me. This is my identifier type of thing. And language, you can choose Objective-C or Swift. Objective-C is the old language that has been used forever, and they just switched to Swift. And so you want to be in the know, you want to be in the new stuff, so we are going to choose Swift. And again, you can choose iPhone or iPad here. There you go, or you can make it for everything. We are just going to stick with iPhone right now. And this is a bunch of stuff with testing and, you know, using persistent data, meaning like if you open and close your app, if you open it again, then like the things that you did before are still there. We can go into that later, but this is all set up, so we'll go next. And then we got to put it somewhere. A Git repository just means that your project will be placed under version control, which means that it's easier to go back. Like if you save your code and then you do this crazy operation to your code, like you put in this new view or you put in this new thing, and it's really hard to like refactor your code to go back to what it was before, then you could just easily go back to a previous version. That's what this does. But this is going to be a very simple application, so we are just going to click create. And again, you could put it anywhere you want. It'll load up and you'll come to this page. And this is where we get to the meat of what we're actually doing with Xcode. The first thing that we are going to go through are the different panes. And so the panes are basically different areas of Xcode. And so you have this pane over here. As you see by my, moving mouse, we have this area, and this is the navigation pane. And so this is how you're going to navigate through your files. If I want to go to this file, I click it. If I want to go to this file, I click it. Whatever file I want to go to, this will be how I get to it. And we have a bunch of tabs here in our navigation pane. We have this hierarchical thing, which basically says if I make a method, I can easily click to it and go right to it. So if you have like these really big files with a lot of methods, this is really nice to, click around and easily be able to see, okay, I was looking for this method, here it is. Search, obvious. I was searching for video art at some point, I don't remember. But yeah, you could search for any text, so we could say application, and it will show me exactly where it is throughout my entire program. This will show, this tab with the little, triangle and exclamation point in the middle, it basically shows, okay, I have errors, where are my errors? And so if I do a little, thing here, just a crazy little, symbol that it's not going to recognize and save it, it's going to say, oh, you have an error. And if I click this, it'll take me right to it. And the next tab, we were going to just get rid of that. And then the next tab has to do with test. We don't worry about that now. We don't worry about that now. Breakpoints, this is basically, this little arrow to the side bookmark thing right here. Basically what these do is if you're ever unsure of what's happening in your program, you kind of use them in other programs, I imagine. If you don't know what's going on with your program and you're like, okay, I know it's erroring, but I don't know where it's erroring, well, you could go through certain parts of your application and be like, okay, I'm going to stop on line 20, and if it works up to then I know up to this part of my code works, and then I can test and see, okay, if I do the breakpoint here, We can run that. Okay, it's going to stop there. Okay, I know it doesn't error there. Stuff like that. And then this last part just shows you when you've run and gives you kind of a log of what you've been doing with your program. And so building, saving, stuff like that. Anyways, not super important. The main thing you should get from the navigation pane here is the fact that this is how you go between files, and now you can figure out where things are if you want to. Up here is the status bar. This is the big bar coming up across, the top of the screen. Here we have this hello world thing. This just shows, okay, what device do I want to run it on? Do I want to run it on an iPhone 5, an iPhone 6, whatever. We're just going to do the iPhone 5S because that's what I have. But yeah, so you basically, when you hit play and you actually make your application, you can do it on any device that you want, even if you don't physically have that device. When you downloaded Xcode, you got like a special simulator that was downloaded with it, and when you press play it will run, and we'll see that later. But yeah, this is the status bar. This will tell you, if you have errors and you can't run, then this will be a little different, and it'll tell you the time. And yeah, that's the main thing up here. Also, we have these special buttons, which I'll talk about later. These I'll talk about right now. We have special buttons to make your view customizable. And so we have the navigation pane here. We can make it go away by pressing this button here. Click it, click it, click it, bring it back. All right. So what about all of these other buttons? Well, first I should talk about this main area here. This is called the editor pane. And so basically the editor pane, it never goes away because you're always editing your code. And here it is. Basically, this is where you edit your code. We will go into what a storyboard is in a minute, but this place is where you will design and implement whatever you want to do. So if you want your function to go and find the closest Chipotle or something, well, this would be where you would program that. And there are actually a couple different views you can make this be. And so here we have the single view. If you go to the buttons up here in the status area up here, you have the single view editor, you have the assistant view editor, which will give you two different screens at once. And so if you're having two classes talk to each other, or you want, I don't know, two different things going on at once and you need to connect things, this would be the way to do it. And you can have some other views over here as well, but these are less used. Usually you're using the single or the assistant depending on what you're doing. So that is the editor area. And also in the editor area, before we move on, we can also edit storyboards. And so what are storyboards? Well, they're basically places where you design your UI. And so you don't always have to do it here. You can do it in code, but sometimes it's nice, to use for beginner apps. If we go down here, we have WNEHNE, and if we click it, we have all of this stuff. And so we can actually change the size of this middle thing here. So I'm going to just change it really quick to that so we have an iPhone screen. And so what is a storyboard? You didn't really explain. Basically a storyboard, it's where you do all of your UI designs. So if I want a button, I can go down here, search button, get a little closer to this, drag it on. Now I have a button. If I want a label, I can do label, drag it onto here, boom, I have a label. Let's call our label Hello World. There we are, put it over here. This is our button. There we go. So this is a storyboard. If I run it right now, Hello World and my button will show up, but if I press the button, nothing's going to happen because I haven't told my program to do anything when I press the button. But we'll get more into that later. So what have we learned so far? We have this navigation pane over here, we have this editor area over here, and we have the status bar up here. But what is this other area? Well, it's called the utilities pane. Basically, it lets you know details about the stuff that's going on in your editor view. And so here I'm in my editor, area here. And if I click my view controller and I have a bunch of tabs here, basically it'll tell me stuff about my view controller and let me, customize stuff. And so here in this first tab, it's the identity stuff, what's the tag, what is it? It's a storyboard, stuff like that. If I go to this next little question mark, it'll tell me more about the class. So if I'm unsure of what class this is about, that's where I would go for that. Then we can say, okay, I want this view to represent a certain view, be a certain type of view. We'll get into that later. Then we have other stuff we can change. If I click my Hello World, I can actually change the text of this. Because again, it's a detail about, our program. And so there it is. And we can stretch that out like that. There we go. and we can change the font, you know, a bunch of stuff. So basically this pane, this utilities pane, allows you to customize the details of what is in your editor view and tells you more about, you know, what's in here. So if I go to the question mark again, it'll tell me it's a label. Going to this next tab, it's now going to tell me exactly where it is on the screen. So if I increase this X position here, I'm moving more to the right. If I decrease it, I'm moving more to the left. And so that's how you kind of control what you see on screen if you want exact values for, you know, positions. And then we have this connections thing, which we'll talk about later. Now, if we scroll down here, we're over here now. This is called the objects library. And so the object library, basically, it is this library that has a bunch of stuff that you can literally just drag onto your storyboard, which is kind of representative of your view, what's going to be shown to the user on screen. And it's really nice to, you know, just drag another label, you know. That's what it's there for. And you can also grab other views, like completely other views. And so right here, I have this view, which is controlled by a view controller. We'll talk more about that framework in a second. And I can literally search view controller here, and I can add a whole nother view to my screen, add transitions between them. We'll get to that later as well. So here we are, we have our first view. And before we run it, let me just review kind of what we've been doing here. So we have this navigation area over here, this navigation pane. We can make it go away like that, pressing this little button over here. We have storyboards, we have .swift files. The .swift files hold the code or the classes, they hold the program, and the storyboard just shows you, okay, what is it going to look like on screen? We have this editor area here in the middle, which allows us to edit our code or edit our storyboard. You can do the assistant editor right here. There we go. And we have this utilities pane over here, which we can disappear with that, and it just shows us details about what's going on in the editor. We also have, you see this little middle button here, we can do that. This is our debug area. If we print anything out to the console, like you would in Java, it would be like over here. If we want to see, you know, what's going on, any news about our breakpoints would be down here as well. Anything that Xcode wants to tell us that's going wrong, that's erroring, it's going to be down here. And we'll make that go away by just pressing that button there. And we're going to run our thing. So if we press play here, it will load up, it will build. And this may take a second if it's your first time running. And we'll drag that over here. It's going to load up. And it should pop open like this. It should have this little stuff at the top, which comes, you know, boilerplate with any app that you make. And boom, there it is. Hello World's our label, and there's our button. We can press our button, nothing happens. What if we want something to happen? What if we press the button once, we want it to say, like, hello again? Like, we've seen the world before. We've said hello to the world. Like, we want it to say hello again. Well, we can make code do that for us. So we are going to get out of this simulator here. We're going to press the stop button up here, and we're going to go to our view controller here. And so this is what controls our view, what controls like the fact that hello world's on the screen and the button's on the screen. Like if we want to change that stuff, you go to the view controller. And so if we go back to our main.storyboard, here is the view. We have a hello world label in our view, and we have a button in our view. If we ever want to change those things or update those things, we have to put code inside of the view controller, which literally controls the view, and we can connect them together so that the view controller literally says, okay, this is on the view, now this is on the view, oh wait, change this value, oh, change the color of this. That's what the view controller is going to do for us. And so understanding the connection between the view controller and the view just has the stuff on it, whereas the view controller is saying, okay, put this on, put this on. Like the view controller is the artist with the paint, with all the tools, you know, and the view is just, you know, the canvas. And so the artist is saying, I want purple on the screen, I want pink on the screen, I want green on the screen. Well, the thing that they're painting, the canvas, that's like our view. And they can change that at any moment. That's how you should think of this. Okay, moving on. So we are going to close this tab, this big tab right here, by just clicking that button there. And we are going to open up our assistant editor. And there we go. And instead of manual, we are going to navigate to automatic and go to our viewcontroller.swift file. So here we are. And somehow we need to be able to access our hello world little label here. And we need to be able to say, okay, if this button is pressed, then I want this text over here to change. And so the first step in doing this is we're going to click our button and we're going to control click and drag over here to our code. This may seem really weird to people who have never done this before. This is very odd, very weird. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a connection, we're going to create an action. And basically what this is going to do, it's going to create a method where whenever I press this button, this method is going to be called, and whatever I say in it is going to happen. And so the name of the method is going to be button pressed. There it is. And it can be any object, we can keep that as is. Touch up inside just means I press the button. There are a bunch of different ways. Apparently you can press buttons. And so this is how you differentiate between them. And we'll just click connect and make sure it says action at the top there, very important. And it created this nice new, function for us, very good. And I'm gonna close our utilities because we're not gonna need it right now. And here we are. Now, what am I going to write in here that says, okay, change the text of hello world? Well, we need access to this label right here. How do we get access to it? Well, we need to drag it into our code, hint, and then we can get access. And so what are we going to do? We're going to control click, drag all the way over to our view controller class right here. Let go. We're going to make sure we make it an outlet. Very important. And basically we are going to call this hello label, and we'll hit enter, and there we are. We have access now to the label that is on the screen. And so inside of our button function, we're going to say hello label dot text equals, and then we can put whatever text we want here. So we are going to call this hello again. There we go, and we do not need a semicolon because it's not Java. There we go, we save, and so now anytime I press this button, the text on the screen is going to say, hello again. There we go. So if we save and run this, here it is, loading up. I'll press the button, and it goes hello again. And it's a little cut off because I didn't drag the label down far enough. But if I keep pressing it, it's going to say, keep saying hello again. We can quit that, and we can drag this little thing down a little bit, and we'll be good. There we go. If yours didn't work, it's probably because you tried to control click over here and you did something and then connected and then deleted the function and it didn't work. Well, I highly suggest you open this little pane over here. There we go. And make sure that if you click this little view controller here, these are the only two things that should be showing. If there's something else showing, you should delete it. You should have a hello label outlet, and you should have a button pressed action down here. If you have more stuff than that, delete it and then try to run it and it should work. Hopefully. Okay. And so what if we want to make our little label here? What if every time we press it, we want it to say something else? So say when the screen pops up, we want it to say hello, and then if we press the button again, we'll say, hello again, and then keep going in a circle like that. Well, we'd have to change this to just hello. There we go. And the label can stretch out like that, not a big deal. And now we have this text down here that says hello again. How do we make them alternate? Well, we're going to do a little if statement in our code, and we're going to say if hello label dot text equals hello, open curly bracket, close curly bracket, then we want to do this. And so basically it's just a simple if statement where we're saying if the text, and we should do equals equals here because we're doing inequalities. We're saying if the text of our label says hello, then we want to set the text to hello again. Otherwise, and so we say else, open curly bracket, we'll hit enter, it'll close the curly bracket. Otherwise, we know the text says hello again, so we want to do hello label dot text equals just hello. There we are, save. And there we go. So because the only two options here are for it to be hello or hello again, the label's never going to show anything else. And so it will always alternate between hello and a hello again. Don't believe me? Let's run it. So we'll press play here. It'll load up and it says hello. If I press the button, hello again. Press the button again, hello, hello again, hello, hello again, hello, hello again. And you just made your first app in, iOS, Xcode, yes. It may not have been the most innovative, exciting app ever, but you made an app. Congratulations! And that is the end of this video. So just to review, what did we even do today? I don't even know. What did we do? We downloaded Xcode, we set up our system, so we're good to go. We learned about Playgrounds, which is a place where you can, mess with your code. We learned about creating a project. How do we do that? We learned about the navigation pane, we learned about the editors pane, and we learned about the utilities pane and how they all help us make a certain project. We learned how to close and hide these panes as well as show multiple views in the editor. We learned about storyboards and code files and the differences between them. And actually a storyboard file is really a code file, but it's encoded based on how you drag the stuff on the screen. This isn't an actual thing, this little interface here. It's actually just an abstraction from a real code file. Anyways, for now, just think of it as a little thing where you can, drag and drop your buttons. But we also learned how to access certain things inside of our code. So if we want to access a label inside of our code, we learned how to do that by creating an outlet. If we want something to happen to our view when we press a button, we learned how to do that with an IBAction. And we learned how to put it all together with Xcode. Awesome! So thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. Bye-bye.